It was a warm evening in Hollywood, 1979. The Beverly Hills Hotel was hosting one of its legendary parties where movie stars, athletes, and entertainment industry giants gathered to see and be seen. Muhammad Ali, fresh off his historic third heavyweight championship win, commanded every room he entered. But in a quieter corner of this glamorous gathering, a different kind of performance was taking place that would lead to one of the most extraordinary encounters in combat sports history. Steven Seagal, then just 27 years old and relatively unknown outside martial arts circles, was demonstrating his Aikido techniques to a captivated audience of Hollywood's elite. Tall, lean, and moving with the fluid precision that would later make him an action movie icon, Seagal had just returned from over a decade in Japan studying under Aikido masters. His reputation as one of America's most dangerous martial artists was growing, and tonight he was eager to prove it. What nobody expected was that these two masters of combat were about to engage in a demonstration that would become Hollywood legend and fundamentally change how both men viewed their craft. In Aikido, Seagal explained to his mesmerized audience, "We don't block attacks, we redirect them. We use an attacker's own force against them. Even the strongest puncher becomes helpless against true Aikido technique." The crowd nodded appreciatively as Seagal effortlessly threw around volunteers, making grown men fly through the air with seemingly minimal effort. His demonstrations were poetry in motion, controlled, graceful, and undeniably powerful. That's when Muhammad Ali walked over. The greatest had been watching from across the room, sipping his drink and observing the demonstration with the analytical eye of a fighter who'd faced every style of combat the world could offer. Ali had fought southpaws, orthodox fighters, sluggers, boxers, and everything in between. He'd survived the ring with Sonny Liston, George Foreman, and Joe Frazier. He'd seen techniques from every corner of the globe. But something about Seagal's claims rubbed him the wrong way. "Excuse me," Ali said, his famous voice cutting through the crowd's murmur like a blade. "Did you just say that any attacker becomes helpless?" The room went dead silent. Every head turned toward the two men as they sized each other up. Here was Steven Seagal, dressed in traditional martial arts attire, radiating the focused intensity of a man who'd spent years perfecting ancient fighting techniques. And here was Muhammad Ali, wearing a simple suit that couldn't hide the physique that had conquered the heavyweight division 3 times. "That's correct," Seagal replied calmly, his voice carrying the confidence of absolute certainty. "Aikido is the art of peace. We neutralize aggression without creating more violence." Ali smiled, that famous Ali smile, the one that had preceded psychological warfare against every opponent he'd ever faced. "Is that so? Well, I'll tell you what, Sensei. I've been hitting people professionally for 20 years, and I've never met anyone who could just redirect my punches. You really think your Aikido would work against a real fighter?" The tension in the room was electric. Here were two masters of combat, each absolutely certain in their abilities, facing off in front of Hollywood's power players. Movie producers leaned in. Actors stopped their conversations. Everyone sensed they were about to witness something extraordinary. Seagal, never one to back down from a challenge, nodded toward an open space in the center of the room. "Would you like to find out?" The crowd immediately formed a circle. This was 1979, no smartphones, no social media, no instant documentation. What happened next would live only in memory and word-of-mouth legend. "Now, I want to be clear," Seagal said as they moved to the center of the makeshift arena. "Aikido is not about harming opponents. I'll simply demonstrate how your attacks can be neutralized and redirected." Ali shrugged off his jacket and handed it to someone in the crowd. Underneath, he wore a simple white shirt that revealed the lean, powerful frame that had carried him through wars with the greatest heavyweights in history. "Fair enough," Ali said, his voice carrying that trademark confidence that had made him the most famous athlete in the world. "But I want you to know something, Mr. Seagal. I may be a boxer, but I'm not just some amateur throwing wild punches. I'm the heavyweight champion of the world. My jab has been clocked at speeds most people can't even see." The crowd murmured nervously. This felt like it was escalating beyond a friendly demonstration. The air was thick with anticipation and just a hint of danger. Seagal assumed his Aikido stance, hands relaxed at his sides, feet positioned in the traditional form he'd learned in the dojos of Osaka. His breathing was controlled, his focus absolute. "I understand. Please attack me as you would any opponent." But then something unexpected happened. Instead of moving into his famous boxing stance, Ali simply stood upright, hands at his sides, completely relaxed. The casual posture confused everyone in the room. This wasn't the Muhammad Ali they'd seen in the ring. "Hold on," Ali said with a grin that seemed to contain some secret knowledge. "I've got a better idea. Why don't you hit me first?" The room erupted in confused murmurs. This wasn't how anyone expected this encounter to unfold. Seagal looked genuinely puzzled, his carefully maintained composure cracking for the first time. "I'm sorry," Seagal asked. "You heard me," Ali said, that trademark confidence radiating from every word. "You hit me. Show everyone how powerful Aikido really is. Hit me as hard as you can." Seagal shook his head, falling back on his training. "That's not how Aikido works. We don't initiate attacks. We respond to them. Come on now," Ali pressed, moving closer with the predatory grace of a man who'd spent 2 decades reading opponents. "You've been telling everyone how superior Aikido is to boxing. You've been saying how any attacker becomes helpless against your technique. Well, here I am, one of the most dangerous attackers in the world, and I'm giving you a free shot. What's the problem?" The challenge hung in the air like smoke. Everyone in the room understood what was happening. Ali was flipping the script, turning Seagal's own philosophy against him. The master manipulator was working his psychological magic. But then Ali did something that no one, including himself, fully expected. He looked Steven Seagal straight in the eye and said with absolute sincerity, "Hit me as hard as you can." The words carried weight that went beyond simple challenge. This was Muhammad Ali, the man who'd absorbed punishment from George Foreman that could fell trees, offering his chin to a martial arts instructor. The room went dead silent. You could hear hearts beating. Seagal hesitated for a long moment. Everything in his Aikido training told him not to initiate violence, but the challenge was clear and public. Backing down now would undermine everything he'd just demonstrated to Hollywood's most influential people. "Very well," Seagal said quietly, his voice barely audible in the hushed room. He shifted into an attacking position, drawing his right hand back in preparation for what he intended to be a devastating strike. In Aikido, practitioners learn precise striking techniques designed to end conflicts quickly and efficiently. Seagal had thrown punches that could break boards, disable opponents, and demonstrate the lethal potential of his art. He stepped forward and threw his best punch directly at Muhammad Ali's face. What happened next took exactly 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds would become the stuff of Hollywood legend. As Seagal's punch moved toward him with all the speed and precision of years of training, Ali did something that seemed almost casual, almost effortless. He tilted his head exactly 2 inches to the left. 2 inches. Seagal's fist, thrown with complete commitment and devastating intent, passed harmlessly by Ali's ear, missing by what looked like a hair's breadth. But Ali wasn't done. In one fluid motion, while Seagal was still committed to his forward momentum, still off balance from the force of his own attack, Ali reached up with his left hand and gently placed his index finger on Seagal's forehead. Not a push, not a strike, not a violent counterattack, just a gentle touch as light as a butterfly landing on a flower. The Aikido master, suddenly realizing he was completely off balance and overextended, couldn't stop his forward momentum. Ali's finger, pressing against his forehead with the lightest possible pressure, guided Seagal's entire body past him. The martial artist stumbled forward 3 steps before catching his balance, spinning around to face Ali, who hadn't moved from his original position. The room was dead silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then Muhammad Ali smiled that famous smile and said, "In boxing, we call that stick and move." The crowd erupted in nervous laughter. But it was the kind of laughter that comes after witnessing something beyond normal understanding. Several people were shaking their heads in disbelief. Others were staring at Ali with something approaching awe. But Steven Seagal wasn't laughing. He was staring at Muhammad Ali with an expression that mixed shock, confusion, and grudging respect. "How did you know exactly where my punch was going?" Seagal asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ali walked over and placed a friendly hand on Seagal's shoulder. When he spoke, his voice carried none of the earlier challenge, only warmth and understanding. "Son, I've been reading punches since I was 12 years old. Your Aikido is beautiful, and I can see you've spent years perfecting it. But fighting isn't just about technique. It's about timing, distance, and understanding your opponent's intentions before they even know them themselves." What happened next surprised everyone in the room, including Ali himself. Steven Seagal bowed deeply, a traditional Japanese bow of complete respect and acknowledgement of superior skill. "Would you teach me?" he asked quietly. For the next hour, Hollywood's elite witnessed something unprecedented. Muhammad Ali and Steven Seagal worked together in the center of that makeshift arena, sharing knowledge across the boundaries of their different fighting philosophies. Ali showed Seagal the subtle art of reading an opponent's body language, the micro movements that telegraph punches before they're thrown, the shifts in weight that betray intentions, the tells that exist in every fighter's rhythm. "Watch the shoulders," Ali explained as they moved around each other in slow motion. "Watch the eyes. Watch the shift in weight. Your Aikido teaches you to respond to attacks, but boxing teaches you to see them coming before they happen." In return, Seagal shared some of the philosophical principles behind Aikido, the mental discipline that allowed a martial artist to remain calm and centered even in the face of violence, the understanding that true strength comes from harmony rather than domination. In Aikido, Seagal explained, "We learn that the greatest victory is the fight that never happens. True strength isn't about overpowering your opponent, it's about understanding them so completely that conflict becomes unnecessary." Ali nodded thoughtfully. "You know what, Steven? I think you're onto something there." What nobody in that room realized was that they were witnessing a pivotal moment in Steven Seagal's life. The experience of having his best attack so effortlessly neutralized by Ali, combined with the champion's gracious response, fundamentally changed how Seagal approached martial arts and life itself. Years later, when Seagal became a Hollywood action star, he would often credit that evening with Muhammad Ali as the moment he learned that true martial arts mastery wasn't about proving superiority over others, but about understanding the deeper principles of combat and human nature. "Ali taught me something that night that 20 years in Japan couldn't teach me," Seagal would later tell interviewers. "He taught me that the greatest fighters don't need to prove they're the greatest. Their presence alone is enough." The story of Muhammad Ali's 3-second lesson to Steven Seagal became legendary in Hollywood circles. In an industry built on image and bravado, here was a demonstration of true confidence, the kind that doesn't need to destroy opponents to prove its worth. Many of the actors and producers who witnessed the encounter that night would later work with Seagal, hiring him as an action choreographer and eventually starring him in his own films. They'd seen something authentic in that moment, a glimpse of what real martial arts mastery looked like when guided by wisdom rather than ego. But more importantly, they'd seen Muhammad Ali at his absolute best, not as a destroyer, but as a teacher. Not as someone who needed to humiliate an opponent, but as a champion who could demonstrate superiority while simultaneously elevating others. What happened between Muhammad Ali and Steven Seagal that night transcended martial arts or entertainment. It was a demonstration of the difference between skill and wisdom, between technique and understanding. Seagal had spent years perfecting his technique, developing devastating efficiency in neutralizing attacks. But Ali had spent decades not just learning how to fight, but learning how to understand fighters. He'd studied every type of opponent, every style of combat, every psychological approach to conflict. When Ali told Seagal to hit him, he wasn't showing off or taking an unnecessary risk. He was demonstrating that true mastery comes from understanding your opponent so completely that their attacks become predictable, almost inevitable. The 2-inch head movement that avoided Seagal's punch wasn't superhuman reflexes or lucky timing. It was the result of 20 years of studying how fighters move, how they commit to attacks, how they telegraph their intentions through 1,000 subtle cues. The finger to the forehead wasn't a fighting technique from any manual. It was a lesson in physics and psychology, showing how the smallest force applied at exactly the right moment could redirect much larger forces. Both men left that party changed by their encounter. Ali gained a new appreciation for the mental discipline and philosophical depth of traditional martial arts. Seagal gained an understanding of what it meant to truly read an opponent, to see attacks before they materialized in the physical world. Their friendship, lasting several months as they occasionally trained together, would influence both of their approaches to combat and life. Ali, already moving toward the end of his boxing career, found in Aikido principles some of the mental peace that would help him transition from active competition to elder statesman. Seagal, meanwhile, took Ali's lessons about reading opponents and applied them not just to his martial arts, but to his acting career, his understanding of human nature, and his approach to conflict resolution. Today, nearly 50 years later, the story remains one of the most fascinating crossovers between boxing and martial arts, between American and Eastern fighting philosophies. It reminds us that true mastery isn't about dominating others or proving superiority. It's about understanding your craft so deeply that you can demonstrate its principles with the lightest possible touch, teach its lessons with the gentlest possible guidance, and share its wisdom with the most generous possible spirit. Muhammad Ali didn't need to hurt Steven Seagal to prove he was the better fighter. 3 seconds, 2 inches, and 1 finger were enough to demonstrate the difference between technique and mastery, between skill and wisdom. And in doing so, the greatest showed once again why he earned that title, not just through his victories in the ring, but through his ability to transform every encounter into something larger than itself. Every challenge into an opportunity for growth, every moment into a lesson worth remembering. The encounter sent ripples through Hollywood's martial arts community that influenced action movies for decades. Several directors who witnessed the demonstration began incorporating more realistic fighting choreography into their films. They'd seen what real mastery looked like, and it was far more subtle and impressive than anything they'd been putting on screen. But perhaps the most profound impact was philosophical. In an industry often built on ego and competition, here was a demonstration of how true champions conduct themselves. Ali could have easily embarrassed Seagal in front of Hollywood's elite. Instead, he chose to create a teaching moment that elevated both of them. This approach became a template that many would follow, showing that true strength comes from lifting others up, not tearing them down. Here was Muhammad Ali, arguably the greatest athlete of the 20th century, using his moment of superiority to build a bridge rather than burn one. The lesson Steven Seagal learned that night, that true strength comes from understanding rather than overpowering, would guide him throughout his career and life. And the lesson Muhammad Ali demonstrated, that wisdom shared is more powerful than wisdom hoarded, continues to inspire anyone who faces challenges in their daily lives. Sometimes the most important victories happen not when we prove we're right, but when we help others discover what's possible. The encounter between Muhammad Ali and Steven Seagal didn't just change two men, it showed everyone watching what greatness really looks like when it's guided by wisdom, compassion, and the understanding that the strongest among us are those who lift others up.